name is Amy Kuney. My artist name I go by is Ames, Ames. I've been writing songs, ever since I can remember, and one of the things I've been trying to do for many years is write a song, because I was raised in the church and grew up singing hymns, but I never really subscribed to religion or that sort of, patriarchal structure. And I always felt my higher powers were women. My whole life, even at a young age, that's just kind of how I saw women were my higher power. And of course, I never was really vocal about that because I didn't understand it, and it was strictly forbidden. So it's always something though I wanted to write about and wanted to do it in a way that what didn't come across as bashing religion in any way, but was more of a sort of a beautiful ode to women. And so last year, Yeah. Last year I collaborated with my friend Alex, and I told him about this idea, and he's, classically trained, very talented, and was just playing chorus, and I wanted to sound like a hymn, kind of. And he knew exactly what I meant and started playing hymn chords on piano, and the song came about very quickly. I think I've been thinking about it for long enough that it just kind of fell into being. And we wrote the song. I released it in February of last year, and it was a love song to my fiance Lauren, and I sent it to Lindsay Wolfington immediately, and said this is could be an LGBTQA plus love song. It's about my fiance, and it's structurally kind of like it's a hymn basically. And she was like, "Oh my God, I have the perfect place to put this." And spoke about Warrior Nun and the relationship that was forming between the characters. And then it was we just kind of waited. It's funny because with music placements, you never know if something has really gone through until you see it with your own eyes. And so it wasn't until the season dropped and we saw the scene in my living room where I was like, oh, it made it. It made it. And it was really exciting.
It's really cool. How does it feel with saying that, to see the fandom's reaction to that song, specifically Hymn for Her, playing in that pivotal scene, since it's kind of become a queer iconic anthem throughout the community?
Oh my goodness. I'm sort of floored by that. I was not expecting that at all. I'm really happy. What I wanted to do in writing the song was comfort people, I guess, that were raised like me, who were raised in the church, and feel like you're the only person who feels that way, and feeling everyone around you sort of damning you for feeling that way, but also knowing that it's such a beautiful way to feel. I think I wrote it for my fiance, but also as sort of a comfort to my younger self, 7-8-year-old Amy, who was just like, shit, why is this so difficult? And why is there so much fear around this? And why do I feel bad about it? I really wanted it to be a comforting song. And so the fact that it is acting that way to some people, for me, is enough. And I guess the reaction has just been extra for me, because I just really wanted it to comfort kids, people who are still in the throes of that struggle.
Yeah. Thank you. So when you're going to write a song, do you usually gravitate towards a piano or the guitar, or where do you go to first for that kind of thing?
It varies. It depends on what I have close by. I also do use MIDI quite a bit. I use a DAW system, so I use Logic, and sometimes I'll use like a MIDI keyboard and play some stuff in, but then go in to the MIDI and move things around to my liking. When I'm writing with other people, I tend to gravitate toward guitar because it's easier to be, I guess, more percussive with guitar with the picking patterns, or like dot 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 dot, like the chugging patterns. Um, Piano, I don't know. It's hard. It really depends on the environment. If there's a really beautiful piano, and in the room where it just like you can't help but be inspired by the sound of it. That is a treat. But usually I'll just grab my guitar because it's easy to walk around with because I'm a pacer. Yeah, I don't know. Piano is beautiful. It also holds a different meaning for me because I was also classically trained and put into like competitions and things when I was 4 years old. So it's also a little intimidating, the piano.
So I wanted to know if you feel that you are limited by your own technique and your muscle memory when you sit down at the piano to write, or you're at the guitar, because I think that all composers and songwriters often feel that they have to try new things to escape those patterns and the same voicings, and those same harmonic progressions.
Yeah, uh, I'm still learning. I say I was classically trained in my youth, but like I never really learned how to sight read. I mean, I learned how to do it. I just could not do it. So I played by ear. My mom would actually like buy cassette tapes or CDs of whatever classical piece that I was supposed to learn and let me listen to it over and over because that was kind of how I was able to learn for recitals and things like that. My sister, on the other hand, my sister is a string player and she can sight read. And so she had that muscle early on where she was able to read music very quickly. I was not. And so I think that's kind of helped me in a way where I definitely rely on my ear to decide what feels good for me as opposed to what I'm used to playing, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I think honestly I was built more for the creative side of music than the more technical side because I never really understood how anyone could read music so quickly. It took me forever, and it was easier for me to just memorize the piece and just kind of make my hands do what I was hearing.
You mentioned earlier that your friend Alex was sitting down at the piano, and you're sort of putting some ideas through for him, for her initially. And my first impression of the song is just how incredibly interesting and unusual the voicings are and those chord choices. And with the composition of the chords in themselves, it's just really unusual and part of what makes the song incredibly beautiful and moving. And so I'm just wondering, with that piano part, is that something from your harmonic language? Is that something that, or is that something that's influenced by someone or picked up from somewhere else, or maybe just lots of different artists? Like where do you think your personal harmonic language comes from?
I think a lot of it has to do with being raised on hymns and classical music, and then eventually like more like soundtrack music. Because we as kids just weren't allowed to listen to anything very secular. Like it was a big debate whether or not I could actually get the Titanic soundtrack when Titanic came out, just because of the what was in the movie. I wasn't obviously allowed to see the movie, but soundtracks played a big role in my growing up just because they usually had no drums, and my parents didn't want anything with drums or suggestive lyrics or anything. Honestly though, the real, I mean, Alex came up with that progression, and when he started playing it felt so right. I was like, that's it. But again, it was just so fast. He was just very, very quick with his my Ruth is wanting to be part of this. She's hopefully not going to destroy anything. So yeah, he's Alexander Reed is his name. He's originally from the UK, lives in Canada, I believe now. And just his voicings, I that's why I love working with him, because his voicings are always just spot on. I don't have to like explain how I'm feeling. He just kind of knows.
Yeah, in combination with that incredibly beautiful lyric, which is also slightly unusual, it's just a really compositional wonder, and we all love it.
Thank you.
So, speaking of the lyrics, do you have a favorite line or lyric in For Her?
I think the very last chunk of the lyrics, she's the weaving road that will lead me home, and the story without an end, but I must find them first. Oh, the sweetest words from my hymn for her. And then I was really torn between ending it with a woman, but then I was like, that doesn't rhyme, so we'll just go with man. Fuck it. Yeah, and I wanted the chord progression to change a little bit at the end there. I actually wanted it to go quite minor, like very sad at the end. And Alex was like, no, I think we need to resolve it. I think we need to like go back to the tonic or whatever, and just make it sweet at the end, because I was like, it needs to get real sad. And he's like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's the only time in the song where there's the basic triads and simple keys, and it's just sort of perfectly timed to end it.
Yeah, I think it's called the plagal cadence or something, or it's just da da da. It's that amen. Yeah, so that was his idea. It was just to do it the correct way. I was like, it needs to get real sad at the end and just keep going. He's like, no, I think we need to wrap it up there, and just it's a good ending. So I'm happy now that he made that decision for me.
I don't know if this is a stupid question, but when you refer to like the aster blooms, is that referring to a flower, or is that?
Yeah, for me.
Is there any reason for that particular flower? Does that have a deeper meaning there?
Not particularly the flower, and this is going to sound very, very like unsexy, but like I've been paying a bit more attention to my vowel sounds in my lyrics. I never really thought about like alliteration. Is it alliteration? Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Assonance. I never really like had paid much attention to that until I started performing live, and then realized that certain lines were a lot more fun to sing than others, just because of the vowel sounds that were in them. And so I don't remember my state of mind when I was writing that line, but I was probably like, what's a good an open vowel sound that I can use in this line, just because it's funner to sing than roses or violets. I think aster is like can really open your mouth when you sing that. That was probably my train of thought.
Yeah, nice, thank you.
In the Twitter space, you had mentioned how you write songs for your fiance. Basically your muse. Do you have any songs in the works for her right now?
Yeah, I do actually. It's funny because her favorite music, she listens to R&B and hip hop and like mostly rap. So like my vibe is very different from hers, which is great. We balance each other out, I think. I'm working on a song. I actually finished vocals for it yesterday, called A Meditation. That's just that. It's kind of a meditation on her and the way I feel when I'm around her. But I pull from a lot of different experiences for my songs, and sometimes a song might start out very literal, and then by the end it's quite abstract. And I'm collaborating with a lot of other artists too, so I'm sort of absorbing their stories as well, which is the case for like today. I'm going to work with an artist that I've never met before, and I'll have to find out where he is in life and what he wants to write about and just throw myself into those shoes for the afternoon. So
and with your songs in general, you seem to use a lot of synth in the production. For me, it kind of gives me some, Kate Bush vibes, or maybe something more contemporary. And I was just wondering if you have any influences, particularly other artists or people that you admire who've influenced you as a writer, or perhaps influenced your production of music.
yeah, Kate Bush is actually a big one. And Peter Gabriel. I'm still very much like, I guess, a bit. Phil Collins is another, I guess, kind of stuck in the late 80s, early 90s as far as like what I listen to for fun. So, and Bjork, I'm trying to think. Well, I have Bjork up on my wall actually. Yeah, like late 80s, early 90s. And so, like, I guess the synth parts are things that are just very familiar to me. Because when I did finally start listening to secular music, it was all from like late 80s, early 90s. So I guess that just sort of stuck with me, and that's what I want to hear.
I know you performed with Damien Rice as well. Is he somebody who's influenced you in a certain way?
Yeah, yeah, especially lyric wise, his ability to tell a story in the least amount of words is something that I really envy, I guess, because I tend to be a bit wordier in my music. It's hard for me to be like I want them to understand it. I want them to get it, and it's like, well, listeners might get it even better if you like pulled out some of the information, but it's like I still struggle with that. Put less is more, I guess. But he also like we did a short tour in I think it was 2008, and continued writing together after that for quite a while. And it was an education for me, just kind of watching him work and seeing his attention to detail and his vocabulary and what also his sort of the process of getting into the creative space where he was very in tune with like how his environment made him feel, and who was in the room and how certain things could inspire an idea. And so yeah, it was a real treat to get to work with him as much as we did. And we're still in touch. We still email each other every once in a while, and he'll send me a poem or something which I'll print out and put on my wall because I'm like, this is amazing.
He spotted something in you, so
I'm not sure what exactly, but we had good times. Yeah.
So all songwriters seem to have like a shorthand or a way of jotting down notes before they disappear. So do you have a way of doing that works best for you? Do you use like voice memo kind of things where you record it, or do you jot it down on paper somehow?
I do both. I do voice memos. I do notes in my phone. I have I have like notebooks everywhere that I just like jot things into, post-it notes. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. I have a whole shelf just full of notebooks, and then every once in a while I'll get overwhelmed and throw everything away and then start over because I'm like, there's no way I could go through all of these ideas and pick anything that's relevant to now. And so I'm very like all or nothing. And when I had a manager, it used to drive her crazy that I would just I would toss everything, throw it all away, and be like, I'm starting over. And she's like, what are you doing? because it just would overwhelm me sometimes.
Yeah, it can be very chaotic with that kind of thing. So also just sort of wondering, slightly different topic here, but like how often do you like play live to like audiences or to groups of people?
I'll be honest, I haven't played live really since 2019, when quarantine happened, and I got very used to being more introverted, and I actually have quite not crippling necessarily, but I have really bad stage fright, and so performing live for me is difficult. I don't love it. I love it when it's over and I'm still alive. I feel, but my body reacts in a way that I feel like I feel like I'm in danger. I get very anxious, and it's not a joy for me. So I'll do it if I have to, but getting up on stage in front of a bunch of people to me is quite terrifying. And I've been doing it since I can remember, and it's still difficult. So I will perform live again. I'm sure of it, but it's been a second since I've done it.
Well, keep us posted, because I know there's a lot of people in this fandom that would love to actually go.
Oh, thank you. Well, I will.
So you mentioned how Hymn for Her was written from the perspective of like worshiping a woman. And ultimately, I just wanted to say thank you, because I grew up in a very religious background as well. So for me, having a song like that, because there's a lot of shame in that area, having a song like that was very cathartic, I guess would be the best word. You had mentioned it earlier, how like it was nice to have that out in the world for people. I'm one of those people. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, and like creating a safe space like within music, because I think all of us can attest to how much music is a safe space for us. Writing music, playing music, all of it. So I just wanted to say thank you for doing that for a lot of people.
That makes me very happy. Thank you for telling me that.
I did want to know, since we just talked about the stage fright thing, how do you feel about playing on here versus?
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. It's very different. I have been like I guess performing a bit like via Zoom, Instagram, things like that. It's just not the same, I think, as getting up on a physical stage in front of actual people, and yeah, it's something I'll have to deal with at some point. The physical stage fright. I've been sort of putting it off for a couple of years.
Yeah, COVID definitely, I think, made all of us a little bit. It's easier to stay home at this point than anything else.
I was wondering, you're involved with so many musical aspects in your life, from teaching to writing and producing. What else do you do?
Nothing. I really love what I do, and so I work a lot, and it's been a thing lately where my fiance, has had to say that for Saturdays and Sundays you must take off and enjoy life, and we have to do stuff together, and you need to relax, because when she met me, I was working 7 days a week and sort of overcommitting myself. I'm not sure where that came from. My mom is kind of like that. For a long time, if I would take time off, I felt very guilty about it. And again, I'm not sure where that comes from. I don't know if that was something that I was born with, or if it's just, I'm not sure. So my siblings are also very hardworking. So I don't know. It may have just been the way we were raised. You just always doing something, and idle hands are the devil's playground was a quote kind of thrown around. So it's like, fair enough. I won't I won't relax. Yeah, I teach at UCLA. I teach an intro to songwriting class, and then I do tutor the students outside of that. I do A&R for a label based out of New York. I write my own stuff, and then I do sessions quite frequently with other artists. I do read quite a bit, and I love true crime. So I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and we live in Southern California, so it's beautiful, and I love to take walks and hikes and enjoy nature when I can. My family is sort of dispersed, so we're here, Oklahoma, Kentucky, and then my folks still live in Honduras, which is where they built their Christian ministry. So when I can, I travel to see family. But yeah, I kind of just, music is just kind of what I do all the time.
It's one of the balancing acts that a lot of us in the fandom are having to deal with.
You're doing an incredible job. The billboard is actually quite close to me on Sunset, and I pass it frequently, and I'm just always pretty floored by your dedication and the skill with which it took to get something like that erected. It's quite amazing.
My wife had a talk with me too a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay. It's like it needs to be balanced. It's just, I mean, when you're really passionate about something, that is hard. Balance is not a sexy thing. It's just like, yeah, it's like when you're really passionate and on fire for something, you don't want to get 8 hours of sleep a night and eat well, and it's just not as romantic. But if you think about the toll that you know overworking can have on your body, then it starts to kind of sober you up. Which I think last summer I was doing a lot, and I started just physically really feeling not great, and it slowed things down. And I think that was when I was like, oh, like, I'm not 27 anymore. It is going to have a toll, and it's not fair to everyone else if I'm treating myself like this. So I think balance is yeah, absolutely necessary.
So obviously you teach a course in songwriting at UCLA, and there are so many aspiring songwriters in this fandom. If you were to give them one tip, or maybe something that comes up quite a bit in your classes, that might be an area that songwriters tend to struggle with, what would be your number one tip for a young songwriter?
I don't know if there's one thing that I would say, but I mean, one thing that I do try to really instill in my students is staying away from cliches, which are so easy. It's just so easy to fall into that. And there's so much music that's being released daily. I mean, thousands of songs are being released daily, and there's a go-to list of words that everyone sort of pulls from. And so I really try to challenge my students to say what they want to say, but in a different way than everyone else is saying it. And I use example for me, like, instead of like I lost my breath, I'll say like my tummy blinked, which to me feels that same way, but it's my way of saying it, and maybe it doesn't make sense to the average listener, but it makes sense to me. And like saying we flew down a hill and my tummy blinked. I try to challenge writers to find that unique way, their unique way of describing something, as opposed to saying you took my breath away, which has been said a million times in songs. And I think that today, with the volume of music being released, I think that's one of the only ways to really cut through some of the noise and get your songs heard, is by having lyrics that only you could write. if that makes sense.
No, I'm sure that a lot of people would just love that tip. They'll probably even take it from themselves.
Take it.
So would you mind playing for us?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Like the water flows, like the flowers grow, to far corners of the earth. Like the winter's cold and the summer scourge is my humble hymn for her, my hymn for her. Ooh. Oh, the aster blooms under pearly moon, where the poets choose their verse. But she's the autumn air, she is everywhere. Oh, this is my hymn for her, my hymn for her. My soul has stirred up, speaking tongues. Am I worthy of her love? She's the weaving road that will lead me home, and the story without an end. But I must find them first. Oh, the sweetest words for my hymn for her. Amen.
That was amazing.
Thank you. I love that last note so much.
And thank you for writing in D flat. That is the key of the gods.
See, that's something I would not have done on my own. I probably would have just put it in C because it's easier. But Alex was like, "We're gonna make this good. We're gonna make this a little bit more complicated." He's incredible. He's a great writer.
I don't really know how to follow that, but can I just ask, what did you say was the name of your cat? I really like cats.
So we have 3 cats. We've rescued 3. I would like to rescue more, but our spot is a bit small for that. So we have Ruth, Peter, and Kyle. Ruth is named after Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Peter's named after Peter Gabriel, and then Kyle is just kind of a dick, so we named him Kyle.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he's
Solid.
yeah. If he was a person, we would not be friends. I love them so much. They bring me so much joy. My dream in life at some point is to have a small farm and rescue just senior cats, like 7 years and up, and because those are usually the ones that don't get rescued as much. So that's my dream.
Wow.
We'll see. California, though, I mean, everything's expensive here, so like having a dream is very romantic and sweet. But it's like when you look at the numbers, you're like, okay, we might have to. We'll see what happens. But that's my big dream. Yeah.
You know, this whole fandom has had an impact on each other one way or another, not just the Save Warrior Nun campaign. And you've played a part in that. So we'd like to just extend our gratitude and appreciate you coming to talk with us today. Thank you.